Hi, I'm Tim and welcome to the UK Festival podcast. Today I'm going to be speaking with Sue and Sarah, two of the people behind a really very special festival. The festival which holds the accolade of being the only one I bought a ticket to last year, Weird and Wonderful Wood. Now, ladies, could you introduce yourself and say what each of your roles at the festival is?
Hi, I'm Sarah, and Sue and I took over the running of Weird and Wonderful Wood 3 years ago. But I've been involved since I was very young in festivals because my mum started Weird and Wonderful Wood. My mum was a member of Albion Fairs when I was a child, so it's in the blood, I think.
Yeah, and I used to work with Sarah's mum many years ago, helping her to put Winwood on, and so I was back in the day, Sarah. So now we're working on it together, which worked really well.
And for someone who's never been, can you describe what the festival is about?
Oh, we can give it a try. We love our quotes that we receive from visitors afterwards that say things like, there's a surprise around every corner. I spent the whole day laughing, just to name a couple of quotes that we've had in recently. And that's what makes the event, really. It's primarily, or it began as a crafts festival. My mum stripped pine furniture in the garden, and she really liked wood and wood crafts and sculpture and basically anything wood. We never had anything in the house that was plastic. Everything was made of wood, and it came from that, really. And she began Weird and Wonderful Wood 29 years ago. And it was 20 woodworkers in a field with probably 50 families at best. And it began in Thornham Magna because my mum used to do a large event there for Halloween every year. That grew and grew over the years.
What sort of Halloween event was that? Was it like a party or like a children's attraction or?
It was a kind of bit of everything, really. Weird and Wonderful Wood is similar. There was a lot of street theatre. There was a lot of music. There was a lot of children's workshops, gutting pumpkins. And my mum had a thing where it was always on the night of Halloween. So, of course, it could be a Tuesday night pouring with rain, and people would come out in their thousands and park up to 2 miles away and walk through the mud to get to the Halloween event. Halloween wasn't a really big thing in those days, really. It wasn't the kind of Americanized trick-or-treating and plastic kind of toys that we get now. It was much more a paganistic ritual, I suppose. But people wanted to come out and party, even in the pouring rain. I remember as a sort of young teenager with a hot water bottle stuffed down my jacket. To kind of survive the evening.
So did you have live music at those events?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, always live music. As does Weird and Wonderful Wood now, which was your original question. So Weird and Wonderful Wood has kind of sprung from that kind of event. So a lot of artisans, a lot of crafts people, a lot of street theatre. We've got the pick of the crop this time of year, because as you know, Weird and Wonderful Wood is just a few days away now. And you know, were we having our festival in the summer, we would miss out on a lot of the very high-end acts that we managed to get to come to Weird and Wonderful Wood. One, we couldn't afford them in peak season, and two, they wouldn't be available. They probably wouldn't be in the country. So we're really lucky. We've got some amazing stilt walkers, jugglers, giant creatures, all sorts of things that will make you laugh and surprise you as you go around our site. We've got tons of local traders and caterers coming to trade at the event, which is really difficult for us to go through because we get so many applications, probably 20 times more than we can fit into the event. And we're quite discerning about the quality and the pricing and the sort of level of skill, I guess, that things are brought with. We try and make sure that we're not doubling up on lots of things. It's all very kind of small businesses generally, no commission, no big companies. It's all individuals or small businesses, most of whom are local, are traders. Although we do have a few very far flung. We've got somebody that comes down from Edinburgh and another from Cornwall, and a couple even, I think, come from Europe to demonstrate their wares at our event. So we're really lucky. It's a really diverse event. I guess the main ethos is that it's really affordable for families, which is possibly why it's the only one you bought a ticket for if you're living with fuel bills like the rest of us are at the moment, Tim.
So how big has the festival gotten now?
We are at capacity now.
Oh, wow.
We get around 10,000 visitors over the weekend, if not a few more, because some leave and some arrive. So we are at capacity every time. I would say we're just at the point where we say, oh, shall we stop selling tickets? It's got really busy. And then sometimes there's a little smattering of rain and a few people leave, and then 20 minutes later the sun comes out again and people come back. So we've been so lucky with the weather. Every weekend that we've run Weird and Wonderful Wood, it's always on the second weekend of May, and it's always looking really dodgy around now, and suddenly it brightens up for us. So I'm figuring the universe is on our side. This one.
So, sorry, I've just lost my place a bit. You run the event with a fairly low ticket price. Like I think it was £20 last year. For one day.
Less. It was £14 last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's kind of amazing, given all the stuff that you're putting on. Is keeping the price low really important for you guys?
Massively important. It's always been the ethos of Weird and Wonderful Wood. And generally the events that we run and other events and the events that my mum ran is that it should be affordable for families and be as accessible as possible. Weird and Wonderful Wood is a community interest company. So alongside keeping our ticket prices low, we give away quite a lot of free tickets to local charities and give local charities free pitches if they want to come and do arts and crafts or so we want to keep it as much as we possibly can. Obviously our costs have risen hugely in the last I guess since COVID, as has everybody else's, and we're trying desperately not to pass that on to the public that are coming through the gates.
So
the other thing that's really important to us is that if a family's coming, they can budget to come by buying. They get in the event, don't pay children any workshop free, and they're quite welcome to bring their own packed lunch too.
So what sort of workshops are at the festival? What sort of skills can people learn?
Oh, crikey. Archery, silks, aerial silks. We've got some people coming from Portugal to do aerial silks workshops this year. We've got hurdle making, basket making, paper making, spoke shaving, prehistoric experiences, leaf printing, tree climbing. We've got puppet making.
It sounds like a child's dream.
We've got around 30 workshops, all of which are free.
That's amazing.
All of which are really busy all day. And there is something for everyone.
If you're trying to maximize the amount of stuff you do, you get an activity for each 50p you spend on the ticket.
Yeah, and then you've got our amazing shows and walkabout people.
Yeah, so you normally have a really good music lineup. How do you go about picking it?
I think that's me and Sue going, I'd really like them. Shall we ask them? They're going to be too expensive, but hey.
So actually, you've just got a good taste in music.
I hope so. Yes, I hope so. And I hope our public thinks so. I'm sure that we can't keep all the people happy all the time. But again, I hope that there's something for everyone there. Music isn't the biggest part of the festival, really, but it certainly is a very big part for some people. And this year we've got one of my favourites, Swervy World, coming.
Oh, I like Swervy World. They're
We love
great.
Swervy World. And we've got the Willswood boys who've been supporting the Levellers recently.
Hmm.
And Mark Chadwick from the Levellers came last year and he loved it so much he actually asked if he could return. So we are really, really happy to have him back. We've got
That's
Hot
brilliant.
coming with some sort of klezmer music. We've got some folk music. We've got the foreign locals, who I'm sure you must have seen around, Thy Last Drop, who are an absolute staple at Weird and Wonderful Wood, and they usually are final act on one of the days. This year we've got the Baghdadis, who are our final act on Saturday. So yeah, and they're coming down from Newcastle. So
that's quite wild.
Yeah, it's a great lineup this year. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's really energetic, very party atmosphere.
Yeah, people like the first couple of acts, quite gentle, maybe a little bit of folk, maybe a little bit of watching, but yeah, then they want to lively up. So there's so many kind of really funny shows that people sit and watch. So maybe when they get to the music stage, they want to have a bit of a dance. And it's such a unique event. That's what everyone tells us. It is so unique in the fact that we offer so much for so little, and it's so diverse. And
I've never seen anything else like it.
Yeah, and on any part of the site we can hear laughter, crowds of people laughing, which is just the best sound in the world.
Oh, that's wonderful. I guess that's why you do it at the end of the day, just to make people have a wonderful time.
Yeah, that's my favourite thing. I mean, I've been running smaller events for forever, and it's not about making money, because you can't. There isn't money to be made on small events if you want to keep them affordable for people. But the payment is a stranger's smile, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps us doing these events. We're never going to get rich on it. I might not even be able to pay my electricity bill on it, but that's part of it, really, is that we're all in it together. We've got an amazing team who come and volunteer to help us out.
So who are the other key people behind the festival beyond you two?
We've got Tally, who is our site manager.
Important job.
Yeah, he's absolutely key. And right up until build up, it is Sue, myself and Tally, until we get onto site on Tuesday. And then we have Legs, who arrives and marks out all the car parks for us. And from Tuesday on, we have a team of about 6 people, I guess, on site decorating. We've got an amazing lady called Chrissy who paints all our signs and comes and hangs bunting, miles and miles and miles of bunting. So we've got an amazing team of people. And then Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, there will be 60 people turning up to get their lanyards ready to go. So,
do you need any more volunteers, or are you fully staffed this year?
We're pretty good, you know. People seem to want to come and do it for us, which is amazing. And I mean, there's always room for a really good volunteer or two. Always room for some really good people.
Hear that, listeners? Go sign up.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest challenges the event's overcome?
I guess in 2021, my mum won an MBE for having run Weird and Wonderful Wood and other events.
Wow, that's incredible.
She has created jobs for many, and careers for many of the performers that you would see all over Europe. And it was our first time running the event between us, and my mum won the award, and that was quite a challenge, thinking, oh crikey, we've really got something to live up to here. And we had to get it right, and we had to really do her proud. And I think that was a real challenge. And I think our first year of doing it too was, finding the right people for the right jobs, because you want to put people in jobs where they're happy, because it's not about us saying, right, you're doing litter picking, or you're on the gate, or you're running the stage. It's about people saying, this is where my skills are, this is where I'd be happy, this is what I'd like to do. And that really helps, because
you don't want to put someone who loves talking to customers like in the far end of the car park, and someone who's ultra shy on the front gate. Like, no, it's not really how it works.
Yeah. And I think that's why Sue and I work so well together, because I do, as you can tell, a lot of the talking, and Sue does a lot of the paperwork. So I do the stuff that she's not keen on, and she does the stuff that I would rather crawl under the table and hide from. So she has to run in quite a lot.
So have you got anything particularly special newly planned for this year?
Yes.
Is it secret?
Well, yeah, because what we really like is that things are spontaneous and unexpected.
Oh, so you've got a big surprise lined up for everyone.
Well, it's maybe not a big surprise, but it's a surprise for lots and lots of people as they come across it. And we love that. We absolutely love that. That's part of, so there's always, it's part of the event, really. It's part of, people expect to see something they've never seen before.
So I saw last year you had a little bit of a campsite going on. Is that just volunteers and crew, or are there a few people and exhibitors, or are they a few people who just attend the festival and love it so much they camp overnight?
Well, we've actually got 2 separate campsites now. We started this last year because we've always had performer and trader camping, but last year we started a public campsite, and I think we were maybe slightly late today announcing that we'd got a campsite, because we obviously had to kind of commandeer an extra piece of land to do that. But yes, it wasn't full up, but it was fairly popular. But this year we've got a few more bookings. Even despite the weather, people have booked to camp in camper vans or tent.
So how much are you charging for the pitch, or is it included in the ticket price?
Camping is completely separate to tickets. So you can buy a camping pass, which is £20 a night for 10.
Very good value.
And 25 for a camper
That's
van.
cheaper than a lot of campsites.
Yeah. It's quite a basic campsite, to be honest. It's got toilets, it's got water, and it's got a
that's all you need.
Massive fire pit with wood, so people can sit round together in the evening around the fire. And
absolutely glorious.
It is glorious, and it's really lovely that we are still, even the campsite isn't entirely ours as Weird and Wonderful Wood. We're sharing that part of it with the person that owns the land. But it's really nice that we've been able to keep the prices as low as we have. I mean, personally, I wince when somebody says £25 because I've been a single parent for a long time. I'm a full-time carer to my son, and finances have always been really tight. So it's really important that we make it something that people can actually afford to do, families afford to do. As I've said probably over and over already, but it is very much part of running a community interest company, is that we are serving the community.
It has to be accessible,
not the other way around. Yeah. One of my favourite things about Hawley Park is the fact that not only is it the most beautiful ground, it's incredibly wheelchair accessible. I personally have a son in a wheelchair, and it's really important that he can attend events. But many festivals are on incredibly lumpy ground, and it becomes very difficult to navigate.
Especially when the weather turns and it gets muddy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've attempted Latitude with my son once, twice, and it's really hard work. I have to take big, strong people with me to push the chair.
Latitude is huge as well. Big festival to track about.
Yeah. And hilly and lumpy. Yeah.
You wouldn't think that about Suffolk, but that bit is quite hilly
Yeah.
down by
Yeah,
South
yeah.
Wold.
I mean, they're not huge hills, but when you're pushing a wheelchair, going uphill on any level is pretty hard going. So my son's bigger than I am, and his wheelchair probably weighs more than I do to start with. So, we want to really make Weird and Wonderful Wood as accessible as we possibly can. And actually, every comment that we get, we take on board really seriously.
So one thing, this was actually something my mum noticed last year. It was really crowded, and I mean that's a good thing because you did really well with your promotion. But she suffers a bit from claustrophobia and didn't like being quite so
Yeah.
penned in. Is it possible to space things more out, or is that just an absolute limitation of the site?
We have tried to create some space on the site this year, but it is a very small site.
It is a challenge. Yeah, it's a real challenge because we are limited. But we have this year taken on board and that we need to create a bit more space. So we've actually booked a few less stalls for a start,
Oh, wow.
just to create extra space. And we've got a very cunning plan for next year to create a kind of quiet space that we were a bit too late with this year, unfortunately. And funds just didn't allow for us to create it in a hurry. So next year there'll be extra areas, and this year we've tried to create a bit more space, bearing that in mind. So I mean, to be honest, every comment like that we try to take on board into the next year. One of the comments was a sort of maybe an SEN area for children with special needs, and we intend to take that on board next year. Last year, one of the biggest comments was queues for food and drink. So we've got a lot more of that coming this year. We are siting toilets differently and got extra coming because there were lots of toilets, but a lot of them were out of the way where people weren't maybe seeing that they were there. So this year we're siting them differently.
That's something people don't think about that much, but toilet siting in festivals is critical. You can have, 30, 40, 50 portaloos, but if they're in the wrong place, people are only going to use 5 of them and they're going to get disgusting.
And even if you've walked past a dozen portaloos, Weird and Wonderful Wood is quite a small site. And last year we had masses of portaloos at either end and just a few in the middle. But when the queue in the middle is very long, people forget that it's actually only a 5-minute walk back.
Tiny site and you can pop to the other loos.
But people forget that because they've passed them coming out of the car park. And maybe they've spent 2 hours getting to where they are, even though it's a few, probably only a few minutes walk back. But because they've been looking at things and being entertained by things en route, you forget that they're very close. Or people forget that they're very close. So we've taken that on board very seriously.
So you normally manage to get loads of people through your gates. Do you have any secrets about event promotion you could share with us?
I don't know. I think people know Weird and Wonderful Wood. People have heard of it, even if they haven't come. And we poster. We actually make a real effort to put posters up, and people recognise the poster. They might not be able to read what the poster says from a distance as they're driving past.
And Sarah spends weeks going around putting flyers through people's letterboxes.
I do. I've actually... me and 2 others have gone out together and we have flyered 10,000 doors this year.
Wow, that's incredible. Do it old-fashioned style.
Yeah, because a lot of people, what I find with things like Facebook and Instagram is that things flash past you.
And they don't look at it.
Yeah, and however interesting they might be, you tend to glance but not really focus. And posters are different because people will see them over and over again. But social media is never enough for us anyway. We have a lot of elderly visitors. We have a lot of eccentric visitors. I was looking for the word that maybe just don't. Some of our traders don't have email.
Technophobic.
Yeah. And we want to make the event accessible to those people too. And part of that is we get a huge response from having flyers put through letterboxes. Now, we can't do every house in every village or every town, but we do a scattering here and there, like a few streets, and then move along. And you hope that then word spreads. And I think it does. I think it does.
That's the other reason we've retained having tickets on the gate, because a lot of people won't buy things online. We always keep tickets for sale on the gate so that it's accessible to everyone.
It's interesting because a lot of places will just happily sell out.
Yeah, we actually probably sell about 4% of our tickets online, and the rest are on the gate. Because I would hate to turn excited families away.
That's just right. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the worst thing for me. And getting so busy the year before last, I think it was, there was a point where I was actually, okay, we're just about at capacity. We need to think about closing the gate. And this little trickle of rain started just perfectly on time. And we had a few, a chunk of people leave. And it was just perfect timing. So I've never so far had to turn anyone away, which would be the worst thing. I'd probably leave myself and make space for somebody.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Because that's what we're there for. We're not there for financial gain, are we, Sue? No. I'm just wiping a little tear from my eye. No, but we're not there for that, and we're not there for our egos. Nobody knows who we are, basically. We're just in crew t-shirts, just like the rest of the team, because that's what we are, a team when we're there working together. So I think as a festival organizer, it's not riches and glory at all. It's about the people smiling that have, as you're walking past, and you hear snatches of conversation, and that's just the best feeling ever. We were postering and flyering in a small town a few weeks ago. And I went into an ice cream shop with some flyers, and the lady said, "Oh, I've heard about this event." She said, "It is amazing." She said, "For weeks afterwards, I listened to my customers talking about the things they saw, and laughing and joking and saying mad things." She said, "You have mad things, like you had a lady dressed all in gold playing recorders from both nostrils and her mouth all at the same time." That is our wonderful Madame Dorificio. And things like that are priceless. The fact that a lady in an ice cream shop is entertained by listening to stories about the event for weeks afterwards, that's what it's all about.
The second-hand impact you're having on the world. It's incredible. So, are there any other festivals you can recommend that offer something like Weird and Wonderful Wood? I know you said it was unique, but there might be something similar around the country.
I think there are a few wood-based fairs that are popping up. There's one near Cambridge, isn't there? I actually can't remember what it was called. I'm nice. So sorry, but it was a lovely event. A bit later on in the year, Sue's just going to look that up. And Strumshaw Tree Fair is many of our traders do both events, and Strumshaw Tree Fair, which is in July, mid-July, obviously at Strumshaw near Norwich. That's a very similar event. It hasn't got the level of maybe street performance and workshops that we do, but certainly a lot of the traders and the kind of genre of music, if you like, is similar. I guess the ethos is fairly similar. And Candy Sheridan, who runs that, is a very amazing lady who I think seems to put that together almost single-handed. I volunteer at Strumshaw. I volunteer at a few other festivals, actually. I run a stage for Silas Rayner for Maui Wowie, which
stage
I
is
run
this?
The Jeremiah Mark stage.
Oh, that's always so much fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. I very rarely see very much of the rest of the festival, but I absolutely love it. I mean, being part of making people have a great time is just where I want to be honest. And I think Silas runs an incredible event. He and his family are incredible. The way they do that with young children in tow and always smiling is great. I'm very impressed.
Maui is a very special festival. How did you get into running the Jeremiah Marcus stage?
I'm not entirely sure. I was running a stage at Wow Festival, and which I happened on just by the fact that I was the only sober person wearing sequins, and I got commandeered many years ago as compere. And I ended up running one of the stages purely because I was, as I said, the only sober person wearing sequins. Um, uh,
It's so festival,
it is,
so.
yeah, absolutely. And I was running a stage for the Wow Festival, and we did Gig in the Park in Dis, and it was a kind of natural progression. Silas was a friend of mine had been running the stage at Maui, which was at that point the World Music Cafe, and I was assisting her, and I just took over when her health became not so good, and she wasn't able to kind of continue with it really. So it's an organic process. You find yourself where you're needed, and where you'd like to be. I think quite often in the festival world or in the events world, I think sometimes it's just it almost just kind of falls into place if you're there and willing. I mean, I've cleaned, I've gone into festivals and emptied the bins and cleaned the toilets, and because that's part of a festival, and it's every bit around making an event nice for people as booking a band onto a stage. I think people forget that. I think the glamorous bit sounds like it's booking the band stage. In fact, that's quite tedious. You spend weeks on the phone with awful musicians who never phone you back. And haggling about how much they're going to cost, and going, oh no, have you seen this tech spec? That's always always an entertainment. But actually being the person that empties the bins or cleans the toilets is an equal part of making an event a nice place to be. And I think that's
arguably even more important.
Yeah, absolutely. We all appreciate a clean site, and we all appreciate a clean toilet, and we all appreciate a good band on stage. Let's face it, it all comes together to make a great event, and those details are really important, all of them.
So what are your favourite festivals other than Maui Wowie and Weird and Wonderful Wood?
Mine personally is Beautiful Days.
Oh, the Levelers Festival.
It is. I love the Levelers. I think they've always got a really nice lineup. And I think although it's got quite busy, it's maintained a very hasn't got too big. It's limited to the number of tickets they sell, and space is really nice. They put a lot of thought into decorating, and having little kind of identified areas for example, a teenagers chill out zone, and things like that. And I think that's really lovely. I think they put a lot of thought into Beautiful Days, and I like it. And it's not become a large corporate event like so many do.
Yeah, like Boomtown, for example.
Yeah. And I think as Glastonbury became, my mum was one of the first. She was involved in organising the first few years of Glastonbury, and that very quickly, because she at the point was running the East Anglian fairs, the Ruffham Tree Fair, the fairy fairs, the kids fairs that were all around this area. And she was part of the team that began organising Glastonbury, and my mum felt very much that it was becoming too expensive and becoming too corporate, and sort of stepped back from that. It's very much a sort of family ethos that we make events that are affordable for people. I guess my other favourite is because I'm a very keen dancer, and I very much enjoyed the Frisking the Whiskers festival that was a couple of weeks ago at Pakefield. It's a very different type of festival because it's all about dancing.
What sort of dancing?
40s swing, Lindy Hop, and
that sounds very fun.
50s rock and roll. It's quite vintage. And actually, Frisking the Whiskers was second in line for winning the Best Festival in Suffolk award last year. And we just pipped them to the post by actually not very many votes, I understand. They've got a very loyal following. And they create a very lovely event. Unfortunately, I heard after we'd attended that may be the last one this year.
I
So
hope not.
it was a great shame. But it's festivals. I took my teenage son to his first festival, and it happened to be the fest that we were working on, and he's never been a festival goer since. Weird and Wonderful Wood is his exception.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I can say everything in just one word.
Yeah, that was probably one of my least favourite. But having said that, I did go and work at it for several years. But
I imagine if you're getting paid, it's all right.
well, no, volunteering generally. That's how,
Oh, wow.
that's how a lot of those types of festivals work. And when we try and pay our volunteers, but yeah, I don't remember ever getting paid at things like that in
I'm
years
surprised
past.
they could get people to volunteer for V, at least competent crew.
Yeah, I was maybe a bit naive, but and certainly taking my son when he was 13 for his first festival, it seemed to have put him for life. But it's not every festival has its own identity.
Yeah.
I guess that was the point I was getting to, is that although Weird and Wonderful Wood is very unique, every fest is very unique in its energy and its ethos and its vibe, and just the atmosphere is different at every festival.
You say that, right? But I don't know if you're entirely right.
Okay.
Because around the country, they're popping up a whole bunch of essentially chain festivals. So there's some covers festivals, and then there's like the 80s fest. And it's just the same festival happening 12 times across the country. And it's like, I'm not sure I approve of that.
Yeah, it's maybe I avoid those types of festivals.
You're so out of their market, you don't even get their marketing.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. What you mean? I've got to try and get Instagram on my phone? No, I can't. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I think it's all Facebook based, this, because the target audience is like, people in their late 30s, early 40s mostly, because it's, 80s. So
yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not the type of festival that I would take a
Put on.
second glance at, to be honest. And it's not the type of festival that I would put on. I want my audience to be 0 to 100. That's what I want my demographic to be when I organise a festival event.
Have you had a centenarian make it to Weird and Wonderful Wood?
We've had a centenarian playing music.
Oh, wow.
And actually, one of our favourite musicians, who unfortunately isn't able to come this year, he is 94.
So maybe you'll have another centenarian playing music before you know it.
Well, we may well. He's not well enough to attend this year, which is a great shame. But leaping around with his violin over the bridges and up and down the hills and through the trees, we will miss him greatly and hope he returns. So yeah. But I think that's it. We want to offer something for everyone. We haven't got a very narrow idea of who those people are or where they're going to come from, because we hope we are offering something for every age, every ability, every taste. So we hope we're getting it close.
I mean, based on my experience of the festival, it feels like anyone could have a good time there. And from who the crowds were made up of, there was bits of every bit of society. There were families from Ipswich, and then there were like proper festival people who I see at 20 different sites in a year, and there were people who were really, really into one particular part of the crafting. It's just, it's really exciting, and loads of families, loads of kids. So if you were to each have a stage and an unlimited budget, what would your dream lineup be? Your dream festival lineup? No clashes, no concerns about anything. You get to watch the whole thing.
Oh, crikey. I'd like. Okay. I'll give you three. I would have the fabulous swinging chandeliers.
Ooh.
It might have.
It can be four.
I am very keen on a band that I saw recently called the Motel Vandals.
Ooh.
Who are a great band, and they were supporting one of my absolute favourites, who are JS and the Lockabillys.
I do love JS and the Lockabillys.
Yeah, And I'd really like to book the Levellers, which they used to come to Suffolk and play in tiny village halls on their Drunken Public tour. My mum used to book them regularly, and they've done village halls that could only squeeze in 90 people. And I would so love to do a surprise gig like that one day.
Surprise Levelers at Weird and Wonderful
Yeah.
would go down a storm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'd like to headline with the Mongolian throat singing heavy metal band The Who.
I love The Who.
I love The Who. I absolutely love them. I've only seen them live once, and very much like to do it again soon.
I've never had the chance, but they're very high on my list.
Great band. A huge entertainment to watch. So a big mix of various genres there. In my ideal lineup, who would you finish off with, Sue?
I'm not even going to try and better that, Sarah. That was perfect.
It's not that.
Don't you have anything to add, Sue?
Personal choice, I think. Oh yeah, no, it's great. I love that. When I'm looking at a lineup, and I've got one side of me on one shoulder and another side of me on the other, and I'm going, let's have this, no, let's have this, oh, shall we have them, no, that's too expensive. And I was saying to somebody last night, one of the real challenges of running a festival is, and this was at about midnight last night, and I said, what I really want to do is spend the next 2 hours answering emails. And then I said, but I really ought to go to bed. And it's like having these two voices, and I don't know which one of me means the best for me. So it's that kind of, I really want to answer every single question that gets asked, however trivial, but I want to answer as quickly as possible, whether it's can I bring my dog or...
I mean, you put your phone number on the festival Facebook. It's very brave.
Well, actually, it's not my phone number. It gets diverted to my phone when I don't want to carry two phones.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I do quite often carry both phones. So, yeah, well, certainly at this time of year I do. From about February on, I tend to have two phones close to me to keep them separate. But there's too much overlap because so many of our traders...
Oh, also your friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they weren't a few years ago, they certainly are now. Because that's part of it. We're a community. And, we had a trader email us last week and said that he was slightly nervous. He'd done the event before, he'd been to the event. And I said, we promise that the other traders will help you in every way that they can. All of our staff will help you in every way that they can. All you have to do is ask, and we will make sure that as soon as he arrives, somebody will introduce themselves and say, do they need a hand? And because that's part of it, is making people feel welcome, I guess, whether you're coming through the gate or you're coming to sell your goods, or have people eat your food, or cleaning the toilets, or you're manning a car park. We're all in this together, because events wouldn't happen without everybody coming together to make them.
So finally, we've got to the end. Is there anything you want to promote, anyone you want to shout out, or anything you want to add?
We haven't scouted stuff.
They are fantastic.
Which troops are these?
So, I don't know.
We've both gone completely blank. Yeah, we've both gone completely blank, but they are
okay.
Yeah, and they are amazing. They do an incredible job, and scout leaders are very involved in how we in the planning of how we lay out the car parks, because in 22 we had very long queue with people waiting to get into the inside, and actually we managed to rearrange everything last year, and nobody had to wait at all. There were no queues at all at any point, which was fantastic.
Queues are the bane of festival organisers and
Absolutely.
festival goers.
Absolutely. We're very close to the A14, and it's very problematic if cars start backing up onto that. So to actually remedy that by changing the way cars come in and into the car parks, it was a godsend, really. And that was mostly around advice from the scout leaders who'd run it the year before, and said, well, how about trying this? So, and it worked a treat. So obviously we learn every year. I mean, that's the thing, is that every year we aim to improve and develop and make iron out any problem that we've seen previously. It is the first Weatherden and Hawley Scouts, yes.
Nice.
Yeah, big
So
them up. They're fantastic.
The festival takes place on the 11th and 12th of May in 2024, and tickets are £14, right?
That's correct. £15.
£15 this year. Okay, well, inflation's been savage, so a £1 increase is not so bad.
What we've done though is increased the children's age, so you only pay as a child. Under fives are free, but children actually are classed as children until they're 17.
Oh, wow.
According to, so the charge for that is £7.
All right, well, teenagers and co, get along, because it's the best party you'll be able to get into for £7 this year.
And also, I think carers go free, which is a big help to people living with disabilities that may have to pay for themselves and a carer to go everywhere. And certainly people living the carers allowance are really struggling with that. So we're doing our best, even though the main amount's gone up by £1 for an adult. A lot of the other prices have been reduced.
That's incredible. And food and drinks are actually relatively affordable at Weird and Wonderful Wood compared to your usual festival.
Yeah, it's part of our vetting process, is that we want things to be affordable. Obviously, we want a really diverse amount of, levels of range of foods, so that obviously prices do vary, but there's always going to be something affordable. And if families want to bring picnics, that's not an issue either. So there will be a full day of entertainment, I promise, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune.
For anyone who is looking for something to do on the 11th and 12th of May 2024, Weird and Wonderful Wood is your best possible choice. Thanks so much for talking to me, ladies. It's been really great and so informative, because there's so much I didn't know about the festival that you've told me, and it's really nice to be a bit more up to date.
Thank you. Yeah, it's thanks for having us. There's probably 100 people that will come away and will say, "Oh, we should have mentioned them." But
yeah, no, I always get I should have asked more about that. Why didn't I say something about that when I'm listening back? But I think I've covered most of the bases.